Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike and I got a review for you today. From Image Comics, this is Two Graves, issue number 2. It is written by Genevieve, Valentine, art by Annie Wu, colors by Lee Loughridge, and then letters by Aditya, Bidikar. It's a what can I say? But before I do, please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn that bell on. That really does help this channel. You know, all the comments and likes. Okay, so let's talk about this book. So the first issue was a little confusing. It was pretty much this girl and this guy traveling together. The guy has a distorted face. Looks kind of like smoke. Kind of looks like a human. At the end of the book, they did show something on the first issue that was kind of crazy, but they did show the little girl, and she was able to walk on air or whatever. Like I said, it was kind of confusing. This book sheds a little more light. I want to say, if I had to compare it to something that's a little like Bleach, the manga or anime. But basically, the guy is like a soul reaper, or basically death. And he does explain at one point in the book that there are more, that he's not the only one doing it, that there's other people in the world. But most of this issue, and I'm drawing a blank, and this issue does not say either of the main characters' names. So basically it's just going to be girl and guy. And I apologize for that, but I did scroll through the book looking for their names. But basically the girl, most of this book, she's trying to go to sleep, and we kind of find out why later on. But she keeps mentioning that she's trying to go to sleep, and basically she closes her eyes and she rests and everything, but she can't really go to sleep. At the moment, they are traveling through different states, and basically they're stopping at different people that are about to die. They're basically working on the guy's job, but they end up going through this one little town. It's called Royalette. But as you can see, there's something weird going on. I don't know what this represents, all the weird coloring that's going on. It almost looks like they drove through a barrier or something like that, because past that it looks all decayed and destroyed. But during this book, they do stop off at 3 different places. I think it's Arizona and Nevada pretty much is where they are. They eventually do stop at this diner. The little girl needs to eat. The guy, he keeps mentioning that she does need to sleep, and he kind of commands her when she does, and now he's like, okay, you need to eat. They go in here, and the waitress only notices her, and doesn't notice the guy, and she kind of questions that, and he just kind of mentions that they're not invisible, but people either want to see him or they don't. Basically the Grim Reaper. And he kind of explains that there are some people that do see them. They eventually, after the diner, they make it to Las Vegas, and it's one of his stops. They go to this mechanic place. When they get there, they find a girl. She is right here, and she's kind of hard to see, but she's already collapsed. She already died. And there's a conversation about oh, we should have been here before, is what the girl says, and the guy's sometimes it happens like that, where they pass on before I get there to take them on to the next life. But as you can see, she's waiting. They basically complete his mission and move on to the next one. This is kind of where a little more of the story comes out, because as they're leaving that location, the girl ends up seeing this girl right here, and she kind of mentions to this girl hey, don't go home tonight, and if you do, my friend here is gonna come and collect you. And the girl hears that, and she ends up taking off running. our guy, he kind of questions the girl about it, like, you know, why'd you do that? And not in a bad way, but he's like, he also follows it up with, did you know beforehand, before you touched her, that she was about to pass, like she was about to die? And the girl mentions before, like she kind of felt something before she had, you know, she basically saw her and had some kind of connection or something like that. They end up stopping at another place outside of Las Vegas in Nevada, and they go to this hotel. They end up getting a room for the night, and as they do, it's one of the moments where the what do you call him, the desk clerk, he ends up seeing the guy, even though he's outside. He kind of mentions like, hey, you know, tell your boyfriend not to be slamming doors and stuff like that. And she's like, you can see him? And he's like, yeah, I see him outside, you know. They end up getting the room without any complications, and as they're leaving, she kind of catches on to this like advertisement for a ghost town, and it's the same name of that town that they passed through, the Royalette, you know, ghost town. And she kind of questions the desk clerk about like how long it's been there, and he's like, oh, it's been there for like 100 years, you know. He's like, you know, it's kind of boring before he finishes it, and she's already off, and they're already in the room and everything. This is kind of where the conversation comes up about like how you know, he can't be everywhere at once. He's not Santa Claus kind of thing, and there are other death dealers, that kind of stuff. And eventually, kind of like, he's like, hey, you need to go to sleep, and you need some real rest. I'll wake you up when it's time to go to our next location. There are moments when she does give him like grief about it, but it's kind of like a more like a quirk grief or something like that. It's very quick and snide. She does end up going to sleep, and when she sleeps, this is what she sees. It's like a knight fighting a dragon, and I don't know what these are, but they're just 3 globes. I kind of have a theory, and we're about to see in a second, then I'll tell you my theory. But basically, she wakes up and she's like, who are they? And he mentions that they are hunters. We do get 3 names: May, Decima, and Indigo. And basically, and you see them right here. And going back to this scene right here, I want to believe that's what those 3 orbs are. She wasn't talking about them two. She was talking about them, like, who are these? You know, who were they? And he mentions the hunters, because quickly after we see that there are 3 hunters outside the motel room, and they're after him. He walks up and mentions their name, and as soon as they do, we get a little bit of the conversation. But they are they have been like a bounty has been placed on that little girl's head. We do find out that our guy, for some reason, was the one that set the bounty on, you know, on him and her. And these 3 hunters have come to collect the bounty. The conversation that follows is like, why haven't, you know, you taken her? Why haven't you completed it? You know, the longer you know, prolong it, it's going to be harder. So kind of at this point, we do have a little more information. The little girl either has died or she's dying, and she is supposed to have already passed. And we find out in a second like how this might be possible. But he kind of mentions that he will fight for her, that, you know, that it doesn't matter what they're there for, that he's going to protect her, kind of thing. And you kind of see that one of them does jump in action and stuff, and he's about to fight, and as soon as he does, he's grabbed by somebody and then slammed down to the ground, and we find out that this is Amelia. And he says it kind of like in a scared type of way. We see back at the room that the room is now empty. The other 3, while Amelia is taking care of our dude, had, you know, the little girl is basically like took off running. Like after she saw the hunters and stuff, she kind of connected what was going to happen. And basically, like, as like they take him into the room, hold him hostage, kind of thing. Amelia, Decima, and Indigo, and then May takes off to go capture the girl. May does catch up with the girl, and And she mentions that, it's all right to pass. It doesn't really hurt, which the little girl knows is a lie instantly. Um, and like, there's something that she mentions, and the right wording is, it doesn't sound like him. I'm guessing he gave you persona, or Persephone. Sorry, not persona, Persephone. Which leads to me, like, it tells me that maybe this guy gave him a hunter's soul or something like that, and that's how she's still living past the point that she was past to die. At this point, as soon as she says that, like, and about how that guy isn't, like, he's not acting like the way he should be, May ends up trying to grab her. As soon as she ends up trying to grab her, all this goes down where, like, he screams out, "No, May, you shouldn't go after her." And we see that all three of these, like, hunters are trying to, keep him down, basically. And he's screaming out, like, "May, don't touch her, don't touch her." May goes to grab her, and as soon as May, like, gets close enough, our girl grabs May instead. And of course, you see right here, she instantly starts burning. She recoils in pain. And the other three hunters kind of see what happens, and there's like 2 scenes after that. They show her catching on fire, and then after that they just show her disappear. Nothing left, kind of thing, except for a hole. Our little girl screaming, oh damn, our little girl screaming, "I did that." And that's kind of where the book leaves off. Like, our guy is like, "Oh my god, Amelia," and that's kind of it. There is a story at the end. It's called the well, I don't think it's called anything. It looks like it's like a news article from the Columbinarian, and it's I read about 2 pages of it, and it is long, and I want to say it explains the town roulette, because it is this whole long story about this couple that used to gamble, and then the husband died, and the woman continued to gamble. But honestly, as far as stories go, it reads like a historical event, and so it was kind of hard to read. I might go back and read it to see if it has any point to the story, especially it being like 4 pages of story. After that, we do get a brief image of the cover for the next issue, but that's basically it. I can say, getting more into the series, I'm getting more into it. I like, I want to know if that's what he did, if he gave, this little girl a hunter spirit to keep her alive. Like, why? What's the point? There has to be a reason. But for me, now that we're getting a little more like meat on the story and it's starting to evolve a little more, I'm more and more in, I don't more and more. Hey, but that's my review. Let me know down below, if you're reading this, give me some thoughts. So far this series has been a little perplexing and confusing, so if you know anything that I'm missing, or maybe something that you picked up on that I missed, let me know down below. I want to know this stuff. The engagement, come on guys. But hey, that's my review. I will let y'all go. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bah!